Okay, that was a test. Or wait, are we on? Hi, my name is John and I am a music photographer from Houston, Texas. I've been shooting shows and touring professionally for about 3 years now, and very recently I had the great pleasure and opportunity of shooting 5 Seconds of Summer, which was really cool. So the interest in music photography is growing by the day. I'm seeing and hearing about more people who are interested in going into this field, and I'd like to take this opportunity to bring you all with me as I go through this whole process of what I get to do for a living. From preparing and planning and actually photographing a concert all the way through the editing process, I'd like to bring you guys along with me and we can kind of go through all of that together. In a way. But first, I would like to thank the sponsor of this video, Photo Rental Source, for lending me some equipment for this shoot. Photo Rental Source is a rental house here in Houston, Texas that rents out all sorts of gear for your photography and videography needs. From cameras, lenses, to lighting equipment, they have tons of items for you to choose from. I've gone to Photo Rental Source many times over the last few years when I needed specific gear for a job that I didn't have at the time or I wasn't able to afford to purchase. And actually, if you're not familiar with the process, renting gear is actually a really great solution for anyone who needs access to good gear, but may not be in a position to go and put all that much money in up front for a lens, for example. So for this concert, I decided to go with 3 main lenses to shoot with, which is like the holy trinity of zoom lenses, because between the 3, you actually get so much range and so much variety of different focal lengths and different looks and different effects that between these 3, theoretically, if you had only these in your camera bag, you would essentially be set up for almost all shooting scenarios. And these 3 lenses are the Canon 16-35 f2.8 Mark II, the Canon 24-70 f2.8, I believe this is the Mark I, and the Canon 70-200 f2.8 Mark II with image stabilization. Now these 3 lenses may not be the best option for a lot of starter photographers, strictly because of the price point. These are all kind of on the higher end of the price range. But yeah, let's talk about why they're good for concert photography. Okay, so the first lens that we're going to talk about is the 16-35mm super wide angle lens. Now, like I said, at 16 millimeters, this lens is crazy wide. So if you find yourself down in the pit up against the stage and you're super close up on all the action, well, this is going to be a great option for you to be able to be right up on everything and still be able to catch everything that's going on in that setting. So for example, it'd be really good for showing off the band's production or making these huge crowd shots where you can see everyone inside of that venue. Or let's say if you're in a smaller venue and you're right up on tight with the band and you're standing side stage and you don't have a whole lot of room to work with, well, 16mm is also going to be able to help you get into a really, really close and tight situation and still catch a lot of what's going on. Okay, so the next lens that we're going to talk about is going to be the 24-70mm. Now, I would say that this is arguably the most versatile lens that you could possibly put in your bag, and the reason for that is because the focal range between 24 to 70 is such a nice sweet spot that at 24mm you still get a really decent amount of field of view, and it's decently wide so that you can get some really nice environment shots. Or if you need to, you can zoom in all the way up to 70mm, which isn't like too telephoto where you're super close up on someone, but it's got a decent enough reach to where if you're standing at barricade and you need to photograph the drummer, for example, and if they're kind of out there in the back on a riser, or if they're a little bit harder to get to, well, this will give you a nice opportunity to be able to zoom in enough to get some good shots of maybe someone who's a little bit further away. Again, this lens is definitely on the pricier side of things, so I would definitely try and maybe rent this out, see if it's something that you would want to try and work towards. But if it were me, for example, and if I could only have one zoom lens in my bag with me at all times, I would probably choose the 24-70 because it covers so many different scenarios and shooting situations. Yes, 24-70, also really sick. If it looks like I'm tired, it's because I am. If my eyes look very dead and depleted, it's because I have not slept and I have been working on 10 different jobs all at once. Okay, here we go. So Lastly, but not leastly, is going to be the 70 to 200 millimeter f2.8 with image stabilization, the Mark II version of this lens. Now, this lens is a beast, it is a monster, it is a freaking telescope of a lens. This guy right here just comes in handy when you are super far away from your subject and you need to be able to get a huge amount of reach and get nice and up close on your subject. For example, it comes in handy when you're like at the back of the crowd or behind the audience, or let's say if you're up at the soundboard. Well, this is gonna give you a really nice reach to get up and still get personal and close with your subject, even if you are across the venue, for example. Now, I mean, with a lot of other lenses, with the 16 to 35 or the 24 to 70, you could always take one of your photos and crop in and basically stretch it out, but at that point, you're really jeopardizing your image quality. Because whenever you do that and you stretch those images, then it starts to get really blurry and really like pixelated, and at that point, it's really not even worth trying to crop in like that. You're gonna lose your image quality and it's just going to be a huge mess. Not with this guy. And speaking of buttery and smooth, when you zoom in super far with the 200 millimeter, for example, it actually gives you this really cool look where the background of the setting that you're shooting in, the background behind the subject, actually gets super compressed and gets pushed up right on the band member, but it gets this really nice, buttery, smooth, out of focus, depth of field, shallow depth of field look. And not only does it look really cool and looks really clean, but it also helps separate your subject from what's going on behind them. So if there's a lot of activity and there's a lot of action and the production is just super crazy, but if you're zoomed all the way in on that band member, for example, and it separates him from that background, then you are now just focusing on what is going on in that moment for them. Yeah, another really awesome lens. Honestly, probably the priciest lens of the three options that we're looking at, but for a lot of concerts that I shoot that are in larger venues, or if I ever just get the opportunity to go and rent this guy, at photo rental stores, I believe this was like 45 bucks or something like that to rent, which may sound like a lot, but compared to how much it costs to actually buy one of these, it's literally not even comparable. But yes, absolutely love this lens. I do hope to own this one someday, but hopefully in the near future. So there you go. Those are the three lenses that I went with for this concert. Whenever I was preparing for this event, I had to really consider the fact that Five Sauce plays for these really large events. They play for these really large crowds and these large environments. So the 16 to 35 all the way up to 70 to 200 really allowed me to be prepared for whatever was thrown my way. So in addition to these lenses, I also packed the Lumix GH5, which I use for pretty much all of my video work. The Lumix GH5 just has some incredible video qualities and some great video specifications that I just love using this for those really epic slow motion shots, or if I just have it as a backup camera to my Canon, which I am currently filming on right now. This is the Canon EOS R, which actually has kind of taken over a little bit of my videography from the GH5 because I just love the quality so much. But when I photographed 5 Seconds of Summer, I was shooting with the Canon 5D Mark III. So a lot of the photos that you're gonna see was from a previous camera that I actually sold and don't have anymore. But either way, I decided to upgrade to another Canon. Canon is by far my absolute favorite camera for all portraiture, concert, photography, anything photography related. Canon is my go-to choice. I just love it above all else. But for my videography, in addition to that, I also got my trusty Lumix GH5. Now, the last thing that I'm gonna need for this video series is going to be this guy right here. Now, this is the GoPro Hero 6 Black Edition, I believe. I'm gonna be recording everything in real time while I'm in Barricade photographing the band so that you guys can get a little sense of what it's like to actually be there in the moment, in the chaos and in the madness of everything, with the crowd screaming right behind you, with the loud music and lights right in front of you, and just running back and forth like, oh, you know, what's Luke doing over here versus what Michael's doing over here, and yeah, I'm really excited to be able to bring you all with me. So there it is. I'm super excited to share this with everyone. I hope you enjoy coming along with me into the barricade, and as we go through this whole process together. It was honestly such a treat getting to see 5 Seconds of Summer live, let alone being able to photograph them was just absolutely awesome. Very excited. I had to say thank you to the band, and thank you so much to Crystal, who invited me out to go and photograph everyone. It was honestly, it was so unreal, and I'm greatly looking forward to the next opportunity that I get to go and do it. So yeah, without further ado, let's get it going.